Hello everyone and welcome to this month's episode of Let's Talk Mortgages podcast, brought to you by Green Mortgage and Protection. This month we are talking about the need for protection, so we've got our local expert Mizna coach joining us today. Morning, Miz.
Hello, you all right, James?
I'm very well, thank you. This is Miz's first podcast ever. So you're a little bit nervous, aren't you? But we're just going to have a conversation about something you're very good at, very skilled at, very confident at, and something you work with every day. So I'm sure it should be nice and easy. So for obviously those that don't know who you are, can you give us a little bit about you, how you got into the industry and what you're doing right now?
Yeah, so my name's Mizna Coates. My company is Coates Cover. I am locally based, however I do work remotely, so I can work with anybody anywhere in the country. I got into the industry, well, I've been in the financial industry for over 20 years. Originally started off working in a bank. Become quite passionate about protection probably about 11, 12 years ago. I was doing a review with a client initially, just having a chat about the financial situation, going through direct debits. She dropped in the conversation that her husband had a heart attack whilst he was working in France.
Yeah.
Had to have a major operation. So that was like 4 years prior to our appointment. So just out of the chat with her, said to her, right, so did you actually claim on anything that that you've got in place? She went, oh, we don't have anything. But whilst I was doing the review, I did notice a direct debit going out to a company. So took it upon myself to ring the company up, ask them if the client would be eligible. Yeah, there was. So sent out all the forms, completely mortgage free, and paid back all the premiums for the last 4 years plus interest.
Wow.
So they was like over the moon. That completely changed their life, and that kind of made me feel like I want to do that more. So
because most people would have missed that direct debit as well, but the fact that you spotted that and dug it a little bit deeper and almost didn't take no for an answer as well.
Yeah, well, I do like to say that I am nosy, but it's all for good cause. I do like to ask a lot of questions. I like to get to know people. So if I can make a difference by getting to know somebody and being nosy, even if I'm annoying them, it all has a positive outcome.
It's with the best intentions at heart. Because the reason I asked how you got into it was because you're talking about death and like serious illness. For us, we talk about it as part of our process anyway. But people come to us because they're doing something exciting like buying a house. That's what brings them through the door for us. And people look at insurance like, oh, it's something I have to do. It's like, something I need as a grown-up thing to do. But if you actually look at it properly, it can do a lot of good, like you explained, can't it? Yeah,
definitely. After leaving the bank, I went to work for a mortgage broker, and my passion for protection actually grew a lot more. I seen differences, potential claims that were happening. Me just being able to provide people the right peace of mind, making sure that their policies were fit for purpose, really.
Yeah.
So after that, I decided, you know what, I'm going to go on my own. I've got a good purpose of like people who I work with. Like I get on really well with people know how I work, and they've got a lot of like I don't know what the word is I'm trying to think.
Network.
No, they've got a lot of confidence in what I can do.
Yep.
So the fact that people had confidence in me made me feel like, you know what, I will succeed.
And you've always helped us. Like obviously we do like insurance advice as well. It's not what we specialise in. We do a really good job of it, but you do specialise in this. And I know when we've had a bit of a tricky case trying to place somebody, you've always been at the end of the phone for us with an instant recommendation.
Yeah.
We had somebody the other week openly said they smoke weed every day. Every time we ask somebody, oh, do you take drugs? Everyone's like, no. I was like, I'm sure somebody does.
Yeah.
But yeah, we smoke weed every day after work, like not before work. But I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do with this. And I rang you and you went, try these and these and see what happens. And the first one we spoke to, it worked straight away.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I think I'm a bit of an elephant. I remember things that people think, why on earth would you remember stuff like that? But I think as I've grown and evolved within the industry, as soon as I'm discussing policies with a client, asking them about medical disclosures, I already know who I can and can't go to. So the fact that I can retain that knowledge, I think gives me a bit more of a drive to be able to want to help everybody that I speak to, really.
So when you were at the bank, did you have like a limited panel of products you could use from, or was you still independent through the bank?
Well, I never done protection within the bank. I was a financial advisor, so I literally just used to be in a position where people would come in for a financial review, look at loans, potential mortgages. So protection as well was a separate referral. So we'd just basically refer them onto the protection specialist.
Yeah.
And that particular client, after they paid out the policy, I'd referred them for an appointment because they did still need life cover.
Yeah.
Because they were moving on to a new property. we managed to get them a policy again. So people think, oh, something's happened to me. I'm not going to get cover. Actually, it's not the case at all. You know, there's every provider's got the specialist criteria. So always come and ask. Don't ever think that you're never going to be able to get anything.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, because that was kind of the reason why we started this podcast. We do quite a bit on social media and stuff, is because in our industry, both mortgages and insurance, there's so many misconceptions out there, so many myths and stuff, and I think we'll probably start busting them as we go through. That being one of them. So obviously, once you went into independent, working for like the local firm, bit like ourselves, that's when you had the access to all of the different providers. So that's when you could start creating like bespoke packages for clients in any walk of life.
Yeah, definitely. There's just so much to choose from, and I think every provider has got a different level of risk. So they're happy to maybe cover somebody like who's had a heart attack, but they might not be happy with somebody who's got cancer. So it's all about making sure that when you're doing that actual review, you get the right information from that client, making sure you know when they were diagnosed, how long ago they had last treatment, if they're still on medication, if they're in remission. Things like that have a massive impact on potential policies that we can do.
Yeah.
So there's always an opportunity to look at something.
Well, I know recently Aviva brought their claim stats out, and that's one of the things that we get, because our demographic is quite young, they're fit, they're healthy, and people just assume life insurance is that awful day 80 years from now when you finally drop dead, but it's not just that. But on the Aviva claims, the 2% they didn't pay out on, because they paid on 98%, was people not declaring things, not being completely honest about the severity of it and things like that. So that's how important it is to be completely honest.
It's really important to be completely open and transparent about your medical disclosures, family history. They all have a massive impact. And for me, I do pretty much tell people, you have to be honest with me, because if you don't, you're paying for something you're potentially not going to be able to claim on.
Yeah.
Your client your family's not going to be, protected. So just be open and honest about it. If you don't know your family history, then fair enough. Obviously that's out of your control. But family history does have a massive impact on policies, and I've seen that happen previously.
And I think that's a good point as to why I always cringe when people say, I'll sort my own life insurance out online. I was like, please, for the love of God, don't do that.
Yeah.
I was like, well, it's going to be cheaper. And it's like, well, it's probably cheaper because it doesn't cover you for everything that you need, it does.
Yeah.
And it's probably asked you about 4 questions before it'll give you a premium.
Yeah.
So, again, going back to that 2% where it doesn't pay out, if you're not fully transparent, that's where the issue comes. That's the importance of using somebody like yourself.
Yeah, I just think we add a lot of value to it. We are there to protect you and make sure that you get the right advice, that you know what answers you need to answer on your application, and make sure that you disclose everything, because it'll come to the point where you think, oh, that's not really relevant. I just won't put that down, And especially a smoker status.
Yeah.
A lot of people will be like, well, I only smoke maybe a couple of times a year when I go out for, a night out.
Yeah.
But there are tests that providers can do.
Yeah.
And they are random checks as well. So you might have set a policy up 6 months ago, but you are already declaring to that provider when you do the application that they have got authority to check your medical records and even do a nurse's medical review.
We had one come back this week, and I said, like, do you smoke? No. Socially? No, nothing. Vape? No. Because it was quite a big policy. It was like over $500,000.
Yeah.
They wanted to do a medical, came back. I got an email to say they're having to change it to smoker status now, because either he said something to them in terms of that he does smoke, or in his medical records a couple of years ago he was still smoking. So you need to be as honest as possible to get, first of all, accurate cover, but then cover that's going to pay out when you do need it the most.
Yeah, definitely. I think I do sound like a bit of a broken record sometimes when I say to clients, just be honest with me. Don't not tell me anything, because what you think might not be relevant could be very relevant. Because, for example, smoker status, you say you're not a smoker, you get lung cancer. Down the line, they go for a GP report. You've then actually got smoking on your previous medical history.
Yeah.
You ain't going to get a payout because of the fact that you've not disclosed you smoked previously.
And you're there to help, not catch people out as well.
Exactly.
We always ask the question, like, on average a week, how much alcohol do you drink in units? And they both look at each other, and it's like, it's not a trick question. I'm not going to judge you if you like to have 10 pints on a Saturday. I do that. I know you do that as well. So it's like, we all like to enjoy ourselves, and we're not there to trip you up. We're there to help you.
Yeah, for sure.
Same with, like, obviously claims. So obviously if we compare the two, so doing it online or going through with you, obviously if they need to make a claim, they've got to do it, or they can come to you.
Yeah.
they might not get an accurate policy because they've not been honest. You've not done the digging in terms of asking further questions.
Yeah.
I think as well, people don't know what cover is out there either, do they?
No, everyone's specialist in their own field. I always tell teachers, I tell doctors, I tell nurses, I can't do what you can do. And my advice to you would be whatever I recommend, I feel is going to be the right recommendation. And I just think we are specialists in the field. We know how the providers work. We know what is going to work for that client as well.
Yeah.
And sometimes you get people who go, I'll just go and do it online, and they come back to me with a comparison. Then I've got to go back then and say, right, well, this is actually cheaper for this reason.
Yeah, it doesn't have that or that.
Exactly. The definitions are different, and yeah, they might be a bit cheaper online. And you know what? Fair dues, not everybody does want to do a policy through an advisor. They feel like they can do it better. But the advice that I'm going to give you is the right advice, and I'm not going to, go around the world to give you that advice. I'll make sure it's right for you.
I think what puts people off sometimes is they think there's a cost to your advice as well, and the advice is completely free.
Yeah,
isn't it? So all it takes is maybe an hour of your time. You might even get a coffee out of it if you come to the office. All you got to do is be honest. We're there to work for you, aren't we? We're not going to sell you anything that you don't need. We're not there to trip you up. We're there to help you when. Again, we're talking about buying a house is a really exciting time, especially if you're buying with a partner or something like that. We're talking about the good times, but then unfortunately we do need to talk about the bad times, don't we? Yeah,
and it's quite uncanny you say about the bad times, because I do promote my Google reviews, because for me my service means so much. And bad times is one of the reviews actually on my Google page. It does actually say that I make life insurance fun. So the fact that I can do
That's quite a statement.
I've achieved something amazing, that life insurance can be fun. But I wouldn't say it's fun. I say I'm a realist, and I'm always going to set the scenario of the worst case position to be in.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm there to kind of open your eyes to what could potentially happen in the future.
Yeah. I mean, thankfully, I've not lost anybody close to me, so I've not had to make that phone call where I need to make a claim on the insurance.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I never have to, but I can imagine that is where both you and financial advisors, insurance advisors, that's where you really earn your money. It's I think for the client, the recommendation is the easy bit, but when the shit hits the fan, when you've got that person to ring and the hand to hold at the other end, you can't really put a price on that, can you?
No, and that's where I do add value in terms of doing it online yourself is fine. Then you're making a claim, you're ringing the provider direct.
Yeah.
You do the policy through me, I have got that peace of mind for you that I will be there to hold your hand through the process. You don't even have to worry about thinking, who I'm going to ring. You've got my number saved in your phone.
Yeah, there's only one person, that's you.
Exactly. I'll do it, I'll help you, I'll chase GP reports, I'll chase the provider. I'm there to support you, and I work for my clients. I don't work for the providers.
Yeah.
They're there to provide me with a recommendation, a policy for my customer. But my main focus is making sure that my clients are protected.
Yeah. I had a client this week, so they're buying their first house, both self-employed. So I made recommendations for income protection, life insurance and things like that, and they said, we're okay. And I said, well, can I just dig a little bit deeper? I was like, you're self-employed, you don't get any financial support from the government if you're off sick. You employ your husband, so you're self-employed. If you go down, he goes down, and vice versa. And they said, well, what if I pay all that money in the premiums and I don't make a claim? I said, well, insurance is a win-win. If you don't claim on it, great, you're still alive and you're still healthy.
Yeah.
And if you do claim, it's going to pay out when you need it the most.
Yeah.
So would you not see it as a win-win as well?
It definitely is, because if you don't claim, you are very fortunate because nothing's happened to you.
Yeah.
But if you do have to claim, there is that you're in that position where you're mortgage free potentially. If you get the income protection policy, you don't have to think, oh my God, I only get 6 months sick pay. What am I going to do? I'm going to have to rush back to work. If you get diagnosed with cancer, the normal recuperation time is 2 years for somebody to fully recover in terms of being able to go back to do a job.
Yeah.
That's not always the case. But why would you not want to have that peace of mind that actually, if I am sick, I can take my time getting back to normal. I can still have that financial support to pay my bills, not put the burden on my wife or my husband to think that they're going to have to do more hours to be able to still provide an income for the family.
Yeah. As it when it hits the fan and you're worrying about absolutely everything else, finances is one of the last things that you want to be worrying about.
Yeah.
You see it on the Macmillan adverts,
Yeah.
all the care and the services they provide. They're then helping people with grants, support, funding and things like that. that's one thing that you don't have to worry about. You're looking for other people to help you with that. So that's exactly where insurance will come in.
Yeah.
So if we kind of talk about the different types of policies that are out there then, because again, I think a lot of people just assume life insurance, it pays out when you die, that's it. There's a lot more to it than that. So kind of starting off with our typical demographic, which would be first-time buyers and like young families, what would you say is probably the staple policy that you would recommend for somebody in that situation?
So it depends on the situation, depends on their occupation, things like that. But normally what I'd look at is potentially looking at the mortgage protection, making sure that mortgage is protected in the event of either one of them dying. Mm-hmm. Even if it is just one person named on that mortgage, you know, you're still leaving a liability.
Yeah, you're still leaving a debt behind if you die.
Exactly. Yeah. So making sure that mortgage is protected in the event of death. So the life cover, it doesn't only cover you if you die. It would pay out if you had a terminal illness.
Yeah.
And terminal illness and critical illness is completely different. So a lot of people think, I've got life and critical illness when they've got a £10 policy. It's just for life.
Yeah.
If you died, yeah, fair enough, the mortgage you pay off. But if you then got diagnosed with a condition and it was cancer and you recovered, you're not going to get paid out unless your consultant says to you, actually, you've got less than 12 months to live. Then the life policy would pay out at that stage.
Yeah.
Critical illness, like I've just touched upon, it is a policy there to protect you for the events of cancer, heart attack, stroke. Motor neurons disease has been a massive aspect at the minute, especially with Rob Burrow passing. And that, to me, you know, I'm a rugby league fan, so it's really close to my heart, and it makes me feel really sad how it happened for him.
Yeah.
But in
so quickly as well.
Yeah, so quickly, and that could have potentially been terminal. But, you know, it was a critical condition that lasts a long time. There are people who last a very long time with critical conditions. But that also means that if you are diagnosed with a critical condition, you are going to get your mortgage paid off if you're fully protected for your mortgage. The other things I'd be looking at is protecting your income. Doesn't matter how much you get sick pay from work. Your employer, regardless how good of an employee you are, if he says, oh yeah, don't worry, we'll make sure that you're covered, you're protected.
Yeah. It's written on the back of a fag packet. If you're off, we'll look after you.
Exactly. That for me, it's discretionary. I don't take that as law in terms of what the employer's going to offer. So I would look at your income. I'd give you the best case scenario policy to make sure that if you're off sick, your family are not going to have to worry about claiming benefits that actually you don't get for every entitlement. Also making sure that, you know, your bills are paid, you've got a roof over your head, your children are fed if you've got children. All your insurances are paid for, like your car, your home. You know, you've got to make sure that all them things are maintained.
Yeah.
Different scenarios. So if you've got a family, maybe you work for a corporate company who offer death in service. Fantastic. I still don't take that as a recommendation because of the fact that your employment can change at any time of your life.
Yeah.
So you can't take that with you. So I'd always potentially look at a policy where if you was to die, we'd look at a policy that's going to maybe replace your income in the event of a death, provide your family with a regular salary to be able to maintain a good standard of living, and also potentially help your children go to university. You know, things like they're the things that I'd look at. So every situation's different.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you could be a single person buying your first house. You haven't got no one to leave anything to. Making sure your income's the most important thing. Yeah,
we tend to look at into like you kind of like bundle people into like situations, don't you?
Yeah.
So it's like if you've got young couple, no kids, but they've got a mortgage, right? Your biggest responsibility is paying that mortgage.
Yeah.
Again, I don't care if the lender gets repaid.
Yeah.
What I care about is you keeping that roof over your head that you've worked so hard to get, in terms of years of saving your deposit, years of paying your mortgage payments, looking after the property.
Yeah.
A lifetime of work goes into it. One illness or a death and not having the cover, that life's work is now hanging in the balance if the survivor can't pay everything.
Yeah.
We get a lot of young first-time buyers, so as they're preparing to buy a house, we have that talk about income protection then. So obviously for people that don't know, obviously income protection, that pays a percentage of your gross earnings if you're unable to work for any injury or illness that a doctor signs you off sick for, is the basic explanation. So we say to people, we make a recommendation on day one for that. Like, you've come to us, we're talking about buying you a house, but if your income stops and you start dipping into your deposit, that deposit's gone, so we're no longer talking about this house.
Yeah.
Or if the deposit's gone and then you start falling behind on credit card payments, car payments, your credit score's shot, and then again, we're not talking about getting you a house for another 6 years.
Yeah.
So even if you don't think you've got any responsibilities like a house, children, things like that, everyone's got an income, everyone's got a lifestyle, everyone's got things to pay for, haven't they?
Yeah,
So
for sure, definitely. And I just think it doesn't matter if you're looking to buy a property or if you are still living at home with your parents. I had a friend last year ring me up, tell me that a daughter had injured herself. She played rugby. She didn't injure herself and she was off work. So she was off work, she had no income, her car insurance was still having to get paid. And she was like, what can you do? And I was like, I can't do nothing.
Yeah,
the only things you're entitled to is possibly statutory sick pay, and that'll only pay for 28 weeks.
And that's £109 a week.
It's gone up to £116. So,
was it?
Yeah.
That'll get you
so
an extra
it's a
cost
little
for
bit
a
more.
week.
But in hindsight, that's not going to be enough to pay her bills, because, yeah, fair enough, she probably still lives at home. But she's still got her own bills to pay. She's still got a car to pay for. She's still got a mobile phone insurance or a phone to pay for.
Yeah.
Her own luxuries. And unfortunately, I couldn't help her. I did help her in terms of saying these are the things that you can maybe look at cancelling, maybe get your car insurance cancelled and put your car away. But it's just one of them things. Don't leave it too late to then think, oh, I've injured myself now, what can I do? Because we can't do nothing at that stage.
I remember when I was still playing rugby, I think Guardian had just come back onto the scene, bringing on the injury cover. So for like an extra £3, you could cover dislocations, broken bones, ligaments. I think it was around for a year, and they realised they were hemorrhaging money on it, so it soon got pulled.
Yeah.
But I spoke to so many rugby players, got a lot of them on it. They're all quite happy. I think one lad's had about 16 grand out of it so far, so it's almost like another salary for him.
Yeah.
But one lad I was talking to was like, yeah, it's £16 a month. Well, I'll leave it for now. 2 weeks later, ruptured his ACL.
Oh.
And he's like, is it too late to get that insurance now? I was like, well, you would have had £4 grand.
Yeah.
You'd have paid one premium of £16 and you'd have had £4 grand back.
Yeah.
And he's still faffing around with insurance now. Because I think, do you find sometimes when you talk to people, it's almost like insurance is a dirty word? You mention the word and everyone's like, oh no. Before you've even said about what it can do for them.
Yeah, I think sometimes people already got the backup because they're thinking, I don't need it. I don't need insurance. Like, I've got a job. I've got my family to rely on if anything happens to me. But you might have your family to rely on, but how many months can your family repay all your bills for? Like,
yeah.
And I actually say to people, if you feel like the premium's too much and you know your family will pay your bills, get them to pay your premium.
Yeah.
And that's less burden for them to have to worry about actually paying your bills every month.
Yeah.
So
I had a client
option.
say the exact same thing. First time buyer, recommended I think it was £25 a month for income protection, but the income protection would have paid him until the day he retired. So if he could never return to work, he was set for life.
Yeah.
And he was like, no, I'm going to leave it. I was like, if you don't mind me asking, like, what's the issue with it? Is there anything we can work around? Anything else I can recommend? So my family will look after me. And I said, well, if my son or daughter said to me, I had the opportunity of taking a £25 a month policy 5 years ago, and I said no, and I now need you to pay £1,500 a month for my mortgage, my council tax, my water and everything, I would rip his head off.
Yeah.
I was like, you had the opportunity to put something in place long before you need it.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to have to pay £1,500 a month, and I don't know when you're going to go back to work. I don't know if you're ever going to be able to go back to work, and now I've got to pay that until you sort the house out.
Yeah, it's true, and it's a sad situation to be in, because I think a lot of the time people just think, I'm still young, I'll recover quickly.
Yeah.
You don't know what potentially could happen in the future.
I've never been ill before.
Yeah, exactly. That's another one. I'm quite sad in the sense I'll watch 24 Hours in A&E and I'll be sat there thinking, I wonder if he had income protection. I wonder if he had fracture cover. And my husband's like, Mizna, seriously. But it's true. Every situation on a daily basis is a potential where people could have had policies and they haven't took them.
Yeah, and I think when you mentioned about the death in service, that's a great point. Is we say the same to people as well. It's fantastic that your employer will give you 4 times your earnings.
Yeah.
But your husband or your wife's not covered by that policy. It only covers you in death, not for serious illness. And if you ever left that job, you leave that benefit behind. So the younger you are now, even if it's £30 a month and we can put a personal policy in place, that's yours then.
Yeah.
You don't lose that unless you stop paying for it.
Yeah.
If you ever leave that job, you don't have to worry. Or you're not looking for another job that's got the same benefit because you've lost it now, are you?
Yeah, for sure. And I just think the younger you are, obviously the less likely that you're going to have any kind of health issues. So consider it at a young age, because the fact is, the older you get, you are going to be more of a risk to the provider. The premiums are going to be more expensive. Your health risks are probably worse. You might be a smoker and then, it'll increase the premiums. But if you are young and healthy, why not take that opportunity? I think my kids are already knowing that as soon as they turn 18, they're getting policies. You are getting a policy. Yeah. They sit and I'll talk about it and they'll listen to me and I'm like, right, this is what's happening when you're 18. You are getting cover. Yeah. Because although I want to be there to protect my kids and help them and support them financially, I can't afford to pay the bills. I've got my own bills to worry about.
Yeah.
So
I can't remember who it was. There was in one of my networking groups, there's a financial advisor, Martin. He put me onto this video. This guy, he was selling like life insurance. I hate the word selling actually. You're advising. People call me, oh, you sell mortgages, don't you? No, I advise. I don't sell anything. It was an insurance advisor. I think he was like in the 30s or 40s, like door knocking down the street.
Yeah.
And he was saying like, don't see this life insurance as a bit of paper or a contract. He said, imagine it's me turning up at your door when your husband dies with a bag of cash with £100,000 in it.
Yeah.
That's the best way to explain it. It's not just, oh, it's this awful day in the future that I'll probably forget about, or I'm not going to die for 50 years, so I'll worry about it then.
Yeah.
And said you could put £10 a month away in a savings account. It's never going to be worth £100,000 no matter what return you get on it. But for that £10 a month, I could turn up with a big bag of cash and go, I know your husband's not here anymore, but all your financial worries are now taken care of.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's the big thing. I remember when I worked at my previous mortgage, the previous mortgage company, they had set up a policy for a client, not a really old couple, probably maybe, I'm saying old, but I'm in my 40s anyway. So they was in the 40s. I think the woman was in her 30s. So he'd gone out for a jog. He'd been quite a while. She went out to look for him. They'd just had a baby. There was an ambulance in the street. She went up to the ambulance and it was her husband. He'd had a cardiac arrest and died.
Oh, God.
Luckily, that client was protected. And that, for me, they've just got a mortgage, like that massive commitment. She wouldn't have been able to afford that on her own, especially with a newborn child as well. So making sure that your family has got everything they need in place for the unforeseen is the most important thing for me. And yeah, people go, we are salespeople. I'm not a salesperson. I will never, ever force anybody into taking a policy. I will make a recommendation. You're under no obligation. You just take that responsibility yourself if you don't protect yourself.
Well, that's it. Because of the regulations now as well, we, as mortgage advisors, we give you your biggest financial responsibility you're ever going to have, other than children. So we've got a duty of care to make sure this debt you're taking on, you can pay that in good times and bad, whether you're fit and healthy, you're at work, or you're seriously ill, or even if you've just missed the bottom step and twisted your ankle and you've got a month off work with only statutory sick pay, you can still pay those bills. And because it almost has that domino effect, doesn't it? It's like, well, you fall behind for 1 month. I'm sure there's a statistic out there where there's a bulk of people in this country where they're one paycheck away from bankruptcy.
Yeah.
Because they've got no savings, nothing else to fall back onto. So that 1 month that you miss some income could have massive effects moving forward.
For sure it can. And I just think, like, especially with cost of living, everything's so expensive. Life is expensive. We all still manage to live and we all still manage to enjoy our times and have them social activities. But no, average like savings, I don't think many people do have savings now.
No.
And in terms of being able to pay your bills, a lot of the clients I speak to, if they don't have anything in place, they save probably about a month.
Yeah.
I can cover a month's wait, like bills, and then I'd start struggling from that point.
Yeah, it's a case of when does the money run out in all situations. So whether it be minor illness and you're off for a little bit, hopefully you've got income protection that covers you. But when does that money run out? If you have a serious illness and you're off for 2 years fighting cancer, when does that money run out?
Yeah.
Or your partner dies and you're left with a mortgage on your own. How long can you keep your head above water paying the mortgage and everything else?
Yeah.
But you were talking earlier about you go through people's like bank statements, their expenses, that sort of thing, and you've got £40 a month for pet insurance, £10 a month to insure your phone, £100 a month for your car insurance, but absolutely nothing for yourself.
Yeah.
It's like, don't get me wrong, I love animals. I would spend whatever it costs to insure my dog, but then that little bit of metal that you put to your ear and make phone calls, you put more of a value on that than you do your own income and your own life.
Yeah.
And that chunk of metal that got you here as well, I mean, you have to insure that, but you don't insure your own life.
Yeah, I know, and this is the thing, like, for home insurance, car insurance, you have to have them. You can't drive your car without having insurance because you'll get arrested.
Yeah.
But life insurance, it is a niche market, and I just think unless people see a need, they're not going to take it. Unless something happens to someone they know or to a family member, or it hits home because actually something you've just seen on the streets just happened, you're not going to do anything.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the time there is a process when you're buying a mortgage. You have got an obligation to protect yourself, because if you are buying a property as a family, what would you do if you did die? Your family are going to be left. The government aren't going to help them. They're not going to say, we'll pay your mortgage. Because actually, if you're off sick, I think it's after 12 months you can get help towards, I think it's interest only on your mortgage. But
you've got to survive those 12 months first.
Exactly. So there is other support, but in terms of making sure that you've got the right support and you've got the right level of cover in place and not having to rely on people, you have got to take that responsibility yourself.
Yeah.
And think I've got to make sure that I am protected in that instance.
Yeah, and I think for us as well, when we have that conversation about like budget, because people don't know what it costs. We'll kind of go on to that in a minute. But when people say, "Oh, my budget for my mortgage is £800 a month," I instantly say, "That's your budget for everything." We're not having £800 for your mortgage and then I'll allocate £5 for my insurance, because it's not going to work like that.
Yeah.
They go hand in hand. You wouldn't jump out of an aeroplane without a parachute, would you? So you wouldn't own a house with all the running costs and the commitment, but then not protect the downside as well.
Yeah.
When people come to you and say, I need some insurance, I don't know what I need, and they don't know what their budget is, do you have like a general rule of thumb that you would say for someone to work out what they would allocate for it?
Well, kind of go through what the surplus would be. So we go through all the cost of outgoings and see what they've got going out in terms of how much they've got left to spend each month. Because my job isn't there to put a policy in place and make sure they keep it. It's about making sure it's affordable, it's the right thing for their situation.
Yeah.
So we'd make sure that actually what we're recommending fits within the actual surplus income that they've got left. So I would take all the details from them, find out about the mortgage, about the debt that they've got outstanding, the situation, what they want to happen in the future. Go through everything we need to do, really.
Yeah.
And then I would then go away and research. I can't make a recommendation on the first appointment. I feel like I'd need to make sure that I'm doing the right thing for that client's situation. So I'd normally present a recommendation on a second appointment to show them, right, this is what I believe you should have.
Yeah.
How do you feel about it?
This is your situation, this is what you don't have, this is what you do need, and this is the hole that it fills.
Yeah, exactly. And at that stage, people will either kind of take on board my recommendation, are happy with what I've recommended, or the price might be, a little bit too much. That's fine, we can work around that. It's all adjustable. It's all adjustable to fit a budget that you feel is comfortable for you. So don't just think, I can only afford £5 a month for a life policy, because actually, life policies are great, but they're not there if you're off work sick.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing as well, is insurance, you get what you pay for.
Yeah.
So I had a client come to me and was like, I found this policy for £2.30 online, and it only paid him if he died in the event of an accident.
Yeah.
So if he died of a serious illness, just old age, anything like that, you won't be covered unless somebody hit you with a car or something like that, or negligence at work. You're not getting paid out.
Yeah.
So in terms of like a budget, then there's always things that you can do to amend policies. It's not just it's that or nothing.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things you can do to change the policy, isn't there?
Yeah, for sure. So sometimes protecting the mortgage completely for life and critical illness, depending on the term and the amount of mortgage that you want to cover, and obviously your age as well, because your age, your height and weight, smoker status, medical disclosures all have an impact on a premium. So if we then look at that policy and we are in a position where we are okay to cover the full mortgage balance, then that's brilliant. If it comes above your budget and you think, well, actually, I can't really afford that, but I do really want some critical illness, that's fine. We can have a look. We can work it around. We can potentially look at a policy that's going to pay a lump sum out for your critical illness, but keep you protected at the same time and give you some peace of mind.
Yeah.
Your mortgage isn't going to potentially be fully protected for critical condition, but at least, if you died, your mortgage is going to be paid off.
Yeah. Because we would always say to people, take out insurance as early as you can, because we were talking earlier, like it's, yes, your situation comes into account, your occupation, your medical history and things like that.
Yeah.
It's also your parents' medical history as well. So if you're hanging on, I'll take it out in 10 years when I've got a bit more money, is you might think you're still going to be fit and healthy in 10 years, but what if mum or dad are diagnosed with something?
Yeah.
That could cause an exclusion on your policy, because if it runs in the family, we think there's a chance you're going to get it, so we're not going to cover you for that now.
Yeah.
or they put the premium up to cover that risk. So it's not just, well, I'll be fit and healthy in 10 years. It's a lot more than that as well, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. And I just think, like, I've had a few clients over the years who have kind of like forgot to tell me about a disclosure, and then we've kind of gone through an application again just to make sure all the questions are right. And they've said, oh, actually, both my parents have got diabetes.
Yeah.
So actually that does make an impact on your policy, because the likelihood is you are going to potentially get an exclusion for that.
Yeah.
So yeah, the later in life you leave policies to protect yourself and your situation, the more likely it is of you having an exclusion, maybe not even being able to get covered, so you've got to just kind of think of it at the earliest stage possible to be able to protect you and your family.
Because not to be doom and gloom, what's the statistic now? 1 in 2 of us are going to get cancer at some point in our life?
Yeah, so when I worked for the bank about, I think it was 9 years ago I left the bank now, 1 in 5 people will be affected by cancer. The word affected has changed. So it is now, like you've just said, James, 1 in 2 people will get cancer in their lifetime.
Yeah.
Yeah, granted, people are living at a longer age, so things are being, the statistics are becoming more, because bowel cancer is a massive thing at the minute with the old generation.
Yeah.
But 1 in 2 from 1 in 5 will be affected is a massive increase.
Yeah, and unfortunately, again, a bit more doom and gloom is 1 in 1 of us are going to die. Nobody has discovered how to live forever yet, so why would you not cover against an absolute certainty? William Hill or someone like that's not going to give you odds on you dying, are they? So it's like, I'll give you 1 to 1 that you're going to die. Great, I'll put 100 grand on it.
Yeah.
So yeah, why not protect against something which unfortunately is going to hit? Well, if you're married,
inevitable.
If you're married, it's going to hit one of you, and the other one's going to be affected.
Yeah.
So now obviously part of your process is the annual reviews with clients. So it's not just set the policy up and don't speak to me again unless you need something.
Yeah.
You get in touch every year, don't need to go through them.
Yeah, so what I try and do every year is send an email out just to have a catch up, just to see if any circumstances have changed. And sometimes people's circumstances have changed and they haven't realised that they could contact me before the year.
Yeah.
I do make it kind of clear that, I'm always there. You can always let me know if anything changes. So change of circumstances, you could have had a baby, you could have changed your job.
Yeah.
If you change your job and we've set up an income protection policy, it's definitely not going to be the right policy anymore, because your sick pay might have changed. The level of amount of payout that it's going to give you might have changed because your salary's changed.
Yeah.
Moving home's a big thing as well, because you might have borrowed more, you might have paid a lot off the balance of your previous mortgage.
Yeah.
So, making sure that you might not need actually that level of cover anymore, so your premiums might be cheaper. So anything in your situation, even if it's something quite trivial, I always say just get in touch, because at the end of the day, it's my job to make sure it's still the right policy for you. It's not for you to kind of think, well, I think I need that changing. You just message me. And I do get clients who know that that's how I work. They'll message me and tell me like they've had a baby, or, they're going on holiday for 2 weeks. Can I help them with travel insurance? I'm really sorry, I can't help you with that. But, I'm still on their mind to know that actually I can help them with a lot of things.
Well, that's it. Like the review's not there for you to get more work out of it.
No.
It's not like, oh, now what can we add on? Like you say, we've got lads that I used to play rugby with, they've got like injury cover. It's like, well, we're not playing rugby anymore. You've got income protection, you've got life and critical illness cover. You're pretty much set there.
Yeah.
You could probably get rid of that one now, unless you're playing 5-a-side and you're going to do something stupid.
Yeah.
Or if they've paid a chunk of the mortgage off, they've made a claim on one of them and they've had some of the money. It's like, well, I don't need to cover myself for too much. But also like lifestyle changes as well. We've had it where someone's given up smoking, been on a bit of a weight loss journey, so your BMI's gone down now. You get non-smoker status, so like, let's review your policy then. We managed to half it because she'd lost 4 stone, she'd given up smoking for 18 months, and she got a new job as well. So it's like, well, your job's less risky, your overall health has now improved, so you've still got the same cover, but we've managed to save you like £200 a year. So it's actually a good thing, a review, not just it's something I have to do. No,
well, for me, it's a part of my process, and that's kind of how I work, because at the end of the day, I've provided you with a policy that gives you that peace of mind. I need to make sure it's still the right peace of mind that you've got every single year, or every situation that changes, really. And in terms of making sure it's right, we do, we do booking an appointment. I do Teams, face-to-face, phone calls, whatever suits my clients. I'm quite flexible in terms of what I'll do. And then we'll just go through everything. There's been situations where clients have separated, or even like you said, the smoker situation. People and hazardous duties has an impact as well. So if you was doing motocross riding and doing it on a regular basis, a lot of providers will either exclude it or increase the premiums because of it.
Yeah.
You're not doing it no more, let me know.
Yeah.
Riding in a motorbike as well, James. Don't like motorbikes. But if you ride a motorbike, when we do the policy, and you don't no longer ride a motorbike because you've sold it and you know it's a bit of a risk because you've had a baby.
Or it was a midlife crisis.
Yeah, you've had a baby and you think, oh, actually, I don't want to be like on the road anymore because I don't like motorbikes. They scare the life out of me.
Yeah.
But you know what? That's good because that means that we can review it again.
Yeah.
We have more opportunity because more providers will give you more cover in terms of, you know, they're not going to increase the premiums because of a motorbike then.
And I think that's another misconception as well is insurance is expensive, or I've got this illness that won't cover me.
Yeah.
There's that many insurers out there that have all got different criteria.
Yeah.
They'll all cover certain things. They might exclude others, or they might take it but then just increase the premium to cover the risk. But there's always something you can do, unless it's an extreme case. There is something you can do for majority of people in terms of insurance, isn't there?
Yeah, though. So majority of the time, like, I've been called a dog with a bone. I don't give up with anything, really. And in terms of wanting to protect everybody, I want to make sure everyone's got that peace of mind. So when I go through a review, I do ask for medical documents. Do you know, if you've got anything from hospital, if you've got any doctor's letters, things like that, send them over to me. Because all it takes is for me to look through it, see which providers I'm going to potentially look at being able to go to.
Yeah.
And then I'll give you an open, honest answer. You know, I can probably get you cover. It'll be a little bit expensive because of the disclosure, or actually we can get you this cover, but you're just going to have an exclusion.
But then you can review it in the future, so if things improve,
exactly,
the advice is free, changing a policy is free, so there's nothing to lose there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I suppose we kind of hit the nail on the head, and that's been like the running theme is that peace of mind, financial peace of mind is... Because you can't see it and feel it right now, you can feel a house, you can feel a set of keys in your hand and turning up and walking into your brand new house. You can't see or feel insurance, so it's kind of like bringing it to life. And yeah, it is that safety net, it is that peace of mind for you, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I suppose we've gone on for quite a while now. This might be our longest podcast ever. It is actually, and it's about life insurance. Who would have thought it? So yeah, for those that are watching this, for people that don't have cover. I suppose, like, what would be kind of like your final message in terms of what they can do next, what to expect, and that sort of thing?
Just inquire. At the end of the day, it costs you nothing to find out how much it's going to be. Obviously, my service is always there free, or you could go to James, whichever, you know, whoever you want to choose at the end of the day. But for me, just find out how much it's going to cost you. If you think maybe it's a little bit too expensive now, that's fine. We can maybe even get you prepared for when you are ready to get a mortgage.
Yeah.
If you smoke or whatever, you know, prepare yourself to stop smoking. Then at least you know your premiums are going to be cheaper. But don't pass the opportunity of giving your own peace of mind in place, and also helping your family as well, just to make sure that they're protected.
I saw a post on LinkedIn a few weeks ago about you wouldn't go to the casino and put your house on red.
Yeah.
That's kind of what living without any form of insurance is. It is a gamble. Like we were saying, unfortunately, one of us is going to get cancer. There's life events. Things do happen. I like a bet. I'll be going to Hull KR tonight. I'll probably put a bet on that. But I wouldn't be betting my mortgage on it. I won't be betting my soon family's future on it either.
No.
It can be cheaper than what you need it to be. You can make it completely bespoke, cover what you need, when you need it, for as much as you need it. So it's not just... I think it's too expensive. Have that open mind. Like I say, all it is a coffee and a chat. There's a recommendation, and that's what it is. It's a recommendation. I'm not going to be knocking on your door to take it out, and I don't. Well, you might do. I'm not going to be knocking on your door to take it out. We're there to help with your best interests at heart. And yeah, you can review it in the future for free as well, can't you? When things change.
Yeah, for sure. Anytime you need me, I'm always there. My clients all know that, and at the end of the day, I just feel like, why not take the opportunity of somebody who is an expert in the field? Like, because at the end of the day, it's free.
Yeah.
You're not going to have to worry about getting the wrong advice. We are regulated, so obviously we do make sure that we do the right thing for all the clients.
Yeah.
I think even if we won, I still would.
Yeah.
And you'll always get open and honest advice from me anyway. So
there's nothing worse than thinking you've got something there to look after you. It's a sure thing, and then when you claim on it, there's something wrong with it. It's like getting all the way to the airport and not having your passport, and you're like, well, holiday's gone now. But yeah, in terms of always being there, where would be the best place for people to find you?
So you can find me on my website on www.codescover.co.uk.
Yep.
You can also drop me an email on Mizna, so it's Mizna at codescover.co.uk.
Yep.
And you can also find me on Google as well. So
that's Coates with an E in it, isn't it?
Coates with an E, Coates.
Yep. Well, when we send this out on YouTube and Spotify and socials, we'll tag you in it. We'll put all your contact details on, so if anybody does need anything, wants an expert in their corner, then they know exactly where to go.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much for coming on, losing your podcast virginity. Hope it's been nice and gentle, but loved having you on. It's been really insightful, and I might see you at the game tonight, maybe.
Well, you'll probably hear me before you see me, James.
Probably, from my posh seats.
Yeah, I'm in the East Stand massive crew, aren't I? So.
But thank you for coming on. Really enjoyed that. And we'll make sure everyone finds you on the podcast.
Brilliant. Thanks for your time, James.
No, my pleasure.